Nietzsche grasped a profound truth about human existence that most people fail to recognize. Solitude is the ultimate forge of greatness. In the crucible of being alone, away from the crowd, away from the noise of collective mediocrity, the individual discovers their true power. Throughout history, the greatest minds were not those who followed the herd, but those who knew exactly when to withdraw from it. The philosopher who seeks truth among the masses finds only their opinions. The artist who creates for the crowd produces only what pleases them. The leader who cannot stand alone becomes a slave to popular approval. In a world obsessed with connection, with constant socialization, with the need to belong, we have forgotten the ancient wisdom that true strength is forged in isolation. Nietzsche, in his philosophical writings, observed that the higher we soar, the smaller we appear to those who cannot fly. This principle applies perfectly to the strategic use of solitude. Those who master it create themselves according to their own vision, free from the distorting influence of the herd. Solitude is not the absence of connection, but its most refined form, connection with oneself. It is not weakness, but calculated strength. Most people cannot tolerate solitude. It creates discomfort, confrontation with their own emptiness, a void that they feel compelled to fill with distraction, with others, with anything that prevents them from facing themselves. In their desperate attempt to escape solitude, they reveal everything: their dependence, their lack of self, their inability to exist without external validation. While the master of solitude simply exists, building themselves, strengthening their will, becoming exactly what they choose to become when no one is watching. In his famous work, Thus Spoke Zarathustra, written as a guide for those seeking to transcend ordinary existence, Nietzsche advised that one must learn to live with oneself before one can live with others. Because every moment spent seeking approval from the crowd becomes a moment stolen from self-creation. Every hour dedicated to fitting in is an hour lost to standing out. Those who cannot be alone give others the power to define them. Philosophically, psychologically, spiritually, the art of solitude gives you time to become while forcing others to remain what the crowd tells them to be. In Beyond Good and Evil, Nietzsche notes that the noble soul accepts this fact about itself, that it owes nothing to others. This is the essence of strategic solitude. It is not merely being alone, but creating a space where you answer only to yourself, where your values come from within rather than being imposed from without, where you forge your own path rather than following the well-worn roads of the masses. Modern individuals have forgotten this simple truth, drowning themselves in social media, in endless group activities, in constant connectivity. They fear even a moment alone with their thoughts, while those who truly understand power retreat regularly into solitude, emerging stronger, clearer, more focused than before. Nietzsche writes that one must still have chaos within oneself to give birth to a dancing star. Applied to existence, this means understanding that not every relationship deserves your energy. Not every social obligation needs to be fulfilled. Not every invitation requires acceptance. Those who cannot say no to the crowd, who cannot withdraw when necessary, who cannot embrace solitude are like sheep following blindly to the slaughter. They may occasionally stumble upon something meaningful through luck, but they will eventually be absorbed by the mediocrity of the masses who wait, observe, and exist only to fit in. Solitude creates strength, and humans are naturally intimidated by what they cannot control. When someone chooses solitude over socializing, others automatically feel rejected. They project independence, strength, self-sufficiency onto the solitary figure while simultaneously revealing their own neediness through desperate attempts to pull everyone back into the group. This psychological mechanism gives the solitary individual an immediate advantage before a single compromise is made. Nietzsche understood that self-reliance is the foundation of power. The one who needs less from others always maintains the upper hand, while those who need constant validation surrender their power without realizing it. In any relationship, in any social structure, in any hierarchy, the party with greater independence holds the power to dictate terms. This is why solitude is not just personally fulfilling but strategically essential. Solitude also creates mental clarity. The person who constantly surrounds themselves with others often loses themselves in the noise, while the one who withdraws can think clearly, can develop their own perspective, can identify their true values rather than adopting the values of whoever stands nearest. Nietzsche advised that the individual has always had to struggle to keep from being overwhelmed by the tribe, and this applies doubly to personal development. Hasty conformity reveals weakness, exposes lack of self, and eliminates the possibility of becoming extraordinary. Consider how many have destroyed themselves with constant socialization, with people-pleasing, with unnecessary compromises that could have been avoided through the discipline of solitude. In his writings on self-overcoming, Nietzsche emphasizes that no transformation is more likely to succeed than one cultivated in solitude, away from the judging eyes of the mediocre. The same principle applies to personal growth. The strength you build alone is power that remains unshakable. The identity you develop in solitude is authentic, waiting to be revealed. The will you forge in isolation is a force your critics cannot diminish. Solitude is not merely the absence of others, but the presence of self, carefully cultivated. True masters of solitude understand that it serves multiple functions simultaneously. It protects your energy, it creates independence, it forces you to confront yourself, it builds mental strength, it maintains authenticity, it demonstrates self-sufficiency, and it establishes inner authority, all without needing anyone else's permission. There is a reason why in history the greatest creators and thinkers spent significant time alone. Solitude communicates strength in a way that social proof rarely can. Anyone can surround themselves with people, but few can command respect through their mere self-sufficiency, through their ability to exist powerfully alone, through the weight of their independence. The modern world has forgotten this ancient wisdom. In an age of social media, of constant updates, of fear of missing out, the person who masters solitude immediately stands apart, mysterious, powerful, self-contained. While others exhaust themselves with endless socializing, the solitary individual builds plans, creates, and becomes. Nietzsche notes that in solitude, the lonely man is eaten by himself, in the crowd by the many. Now choose. Solitude allows you to choose yourself, to build strength while others seek weakness in numbers, to appear independent while maintaining complete freedom. Every hour spent seeking approval narrows possibilities, creates dependence, establishes neediness. But solitude keeps all doors open, all options available, all paths viable. Look at how the masses behave in any social setting, in any group, in any crowd. Most people cannot bear even a moment alone. They rush to fill it with others, with noise, with anything to escape the confrontation that solitude creates with their own emptiness. But the philosopher, the Nietzschean individual, values this confrontation, creates it intentionally, knowing that human nature compels most to seek the safety of the herd while the solitary one discovers themselves. In his writings, Nietzsche observes that the most powerful individuals were those who could stand alone, who didn't need the crowd's validation to know their worth. Solitude facilitates this self-knowledge, allowing one to appear part of society while inwardly living according to one's own values. Those who cannot tolerate being alone cannot control their destiny. They become dependent, manipulable, absorbed by the collective, while those who embrace solitude regularly, strategically, purposefully maintain control over both their development and their independence. Solitude is not merely a defensive retreat, it is an offensive weapon. It is not just about protecting your time, but about using that time to become something greater while others waste theirs on shallow connections. The skilled practitioner of solitude sets boundaries, then maintains them, not rushing to fill every moment with social obligations, but allowing themselves the space to grow until they emerge transformed, stronger, more capable than those who never withdrew. This technique has been used by the greatest artists, philosophers, and leaders throughout history, all understanding intuitively what Nietzsche formalized: the power of strategic solitude. There is another dimension to this practice that Nietzsche understood implicitly. Solitude conveys self-mastery. Those who can be alone without loneliness, who choose solitude when necessary, who allow silence and isolation to strengthen rather than weaken them, are perceived as powerful, as complete, as deserving of respect. In contrast, those who cannot be alone for even a moment without companionship who fill every hour with social activity quickly reveal their inner emptiness, becoming dependent and easily manipulated. Nietzsche advised the strong to retreat regularly into solitude, to ensure their development remained authentic. This principle applies equally to modern existence where attention has become the most demanded resource. In a culture drowning in connection, solitude also creates the space for self-examination, for honest assessment, for understanding one's own nature. Nietzsche emphasized that anyone seeking greatness must be a great student of themselves, must understand their own motivations, weaknesses, and potential. Solitude facilitates this study. When you are constantly with others, you cannot truly know yourself. When you are always performing, you cannot discover who you are beneath the performance. But when you are alone, your true self emerges, collecting the insights that will later prove decisive. Most people never develop this self-knowledge. They are too focused on how others perceive them, on maintaining social connections, on demonstrating their worth through constant association, never realizing that with every hour spent seeking external validation, they lose touch with their internal compass. Nietzsche notes that one must become who one is. This transformation from what society has made you into what you truly are happens primarily in solitude, which creates space for authentic self-discovery while you maintain the freedom to act according to your true nature. The solitary individual becomes a creator, building themselves according to their own vision while revealing nothing to those who would judge, criticize, or attempt to reshape them. This is the essence of Nietzschean philosophy: self-creation through independence, transformation through solitude, power through self-reliance. There is a rhythm to growth, a timing that Nietzsche understood intuitively. Knowing when to engage with the world and when to withdraw into solitude is not merely about introversion versus extroversion, but about controlling the entire dynamic of your development, the direction of your energy, the quality of your becoming. Those who master this rhythm, who understand when solitude serves them better than society, who recognize the precise moment when they need to retreat to grow stronger, possess an advantage that transcends mere personal preference. It becomes strategic life management. Nietzsche warned that the snake which cannot cast its skin has to die, as well the minds which are prevented from changing their opinions. They cease to be mind. This applies equally to personal development. The first to conform, the first to compromise, the first to sacrifice solitude for acceptance sets themselves up for mediocrity, while those who wait, who withdraw, who maintain their independence gain the advantage of authentic development, of self-directed growth, of becoming something extraordinary. The mind that cannot be alone is like a mirror, merely reflecting others, easily influenced, easily controlled, while the mind that cultivates solitude regularly, strategically, intentionally remains authentic, a force that others cannot diminish because it is built on self-knowledge rather than social approval. Solitude is strength made visible. It is independence externalized. It is self-mastery embodied. Those who cannot be alone, who feel compelled to constantly surround themselves with others, to react to every social invitation immediately, demonstrate a fundamental weakness, a lack of self-sufficiency that Nietzsche would have recognized immediately as fatal to any serious attempt at greatness. Power requires solitude, and solitude manifests as selective engagement. Even in relationships where connection seems essential, the ability to be alone often proves more valuable than constant togetherness. The person who can tolerate solitude, who can thrive alone, who does not rush to fill every moment with others, nearly always maintains healthier boundaries and stronger self-identity. This is why experienced individuals train themselves to embrace solitude, to use it as a tool for growth, to choose carefully when to engage and when to withdraw. Nietzsche understood that in philosophy, in art, in life, the ability to stand alone often matters more than the ability to fit in. Solitude projects strength in a way that social conformity rarely can. It communicates self-sufficiency, independence, completeness, while constant need for others often betrays insecurity, dependence, emptiness. The true Nietzschean understands this intuitively, withdraws regularly into solitude for specific developmental purposes, and allows that time alone to do the crucial work of self-creation. In a world of constant connection, the solitary figure commands respect. In a room of people-pleasers, the independent individual holds power. In a culture of desperate belonging, the disciplined practitioner of strategic solitude wins every time. And now, after everything we've discussed, ask yourself honestly, do you spend too much time with others? Do you seek validation more than self-knowledge? Do you avoid solitude out of fear? Or have you learned the ancient wisdom that Nietzsche understood so clearly? That solitude is not the absence of life, but its most powerful forge?